Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now for War Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin. And good morning, Ayo. Look at us twinning in red. The ladies in red, the both of us.
Oh,
you didn't notice? Look at us.
I didn't get the memo.
Oh, it's okay. We won't miss you out next time. Very good morning to you. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. We begin in Africa, here on the African continent, where South Sudan's first vice president and main opposition leader, Riek Machar, has been placed under house arrest, prompting a warning from the United Nations that the country is at risk of relapsing into widespread conflict. Now, Machar's party said his arrest had in effect collapsed the peace deal that ended the 2013 through 2018 civil war. Machar is reportedly being held with his wife, Angelina Teny, who is the country's interior minister. He's been accused of supporting the White Army militia, which clashed with the military recently. Now, his party does deny any links or current links with the White Army, which it did fight alongside during the war. Machar's arrest poses a grave threat to the power-sharing agreement between him and the country's President Salva Kiir, his longtime rival. Now, the agreement was part of a 2018 peace deal to end the civil war, in which 400,000 people were, in fact, killed. Now, a US federal judge has ordered White House officials involved in a group chat on military strikes in Yemen to preserve the messages sent or received over the Signal messaging app between the 11th and 15th of March, after a bombshell report revealed that they potentially shared classified information. Now, The Atlantic magazine, which first reported the existence of the group chat, noted that the messages in this chat were set to disappear after a certain period of time. That has raised concerns that the messages could vanish. Now, this court order stems from a lawsuit filed by American Oversight, which alleges that Donald Trump's officials' use of Signal violated federal record laws. In response, President Trump says the judge in question, James Boasberg, who is also presiding over Trump's hardline immigration policies in court, should be impeached. And now, speaking of hardline US immigration policies, this woman, as you can see in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, is 30-year-old Rumeysa Öztürk. She's a Turkish student at Tufts University in Massachusetts, in the Cambridge-Somerville area. And she was detained, as you can see there, by federal officers, plainclothes officers, as she walked along a street in the Boston suburb. She is known as a supporter, and effectively she's been referred to as the latest supporter of Palestinian causes, to be swept up in Trump's crackdown on immigrants who expressed their political views. Now, Öztürk had been moved into an ICE detention center in Louisiana by the time her lawyer went to court, and the judge ordered her to be kept in Massachusetts, just to show how quickly they move. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio was questioned about this, and he did say that Öztürk's visa was revoked, and he also had this to say about it. Let's take a listen.
Oh, we revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States, and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa...
Oh, very interesting stuff there. Finally, US Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has snapped at Sky News US correspondent Martha Kellner, who was asking about the accidental leaking of those sensitive text messages. And she did ask the British journalist, why don't you go back to your own country? Well, let's take a look at this.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary...
What country are you? Wait, what country are you from?
The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
Okay,
and no. You should care about your own borders.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
Let me tell you something. Do you care about people from your country? What about all the women that are raped by migrants?
Do you care
no,
about
by migrants? No, do you care? Okay, you're done.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
You know what? I don't care.
Service members fighting for your country.
I don't care about your faith. fake news. Do you have a relevant question? Yeah, this is an American journalist. Thank you.
I'm American, and I'd like to hear your answer to what she's asked.
I'm not answering her question because I don't care about her network. If you would like to ask, I can answer.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever?
There's very colourful language there, not very becoming, you think, of a country's government representative. She obviously was not happy to answer Martha Kellner's questions, and it can be interpreted to be quite offensive to tell someone that they should go back to their own country and focus on issues on their country when they are doing the work of journalism. So very, very interesting stories there. Of course, we started in South Sudan, moved on to the United States, and then, of course, what we saw with the Turkish student being detained and moved so quickly from Massachusetts over to Louisiana, and then finally you did see the US correspondent for Sky News being spoken to quite harshly by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
All right, so let me start with Marjorie Taylor Greene, representing Georgia in Congress, and her response. And I believe that the US is towing a very dangerous line with this narrative. Yes, Trump came on the wave of Make America Great Again, and that has rippled across his support base, including one of his biggest vocal supporters in terms of this representative. However, when you're now looking at, it's now gone beyond just people from, even your allies. When we look at the United Kingdom, I bet she probably didn't know where the reporter was where she was coming from. Right. She works with Sky News. It's a reputable news organization, and to say that she was only willing to take questions from American reporters, she should also remember reciprocity and the effect of this beyond just the narrative we're just talking on their own reporters, American reporters who go to cover stories across the world. What this speaks of is the reluctance of her, and as we've seen in recent times, Trump supporters from responding to concrete and important conversations. There's a lot of diversionary tactics. If you're not insulting the person, if you're not raising a ruckus in order to avoid answering pertinent questions, especially that doesn't reflect very well on the administration, there's a problem there. And America is meant to be the bastion of free speech, freedom of press freedom. And to imagine that this is happening here, I think it's quite embarrassing and a shame. But unfortunately, what we've seen in recent times is that he hasn't done anything to stopping them from acting in this manner. Sky News, of course, has been reporting the story, and I wonder what the response would be. When it comes to governance, there are no prizes for not engaging properly with the media or not at least finding a way to engage with the media. So if we're going to criticize it on this side of the world, then we must criticize it at that level as well. Great. Now, with the signal conversation, a lot of analysts, and including myself, just thinking about, okay, why would you hold such an important meeting on signal, which, it has come under scrutiny, thought, okay, was a foolish move by Hexeth, but it goes beyond a foolish move. Following that ruling by the judge, we now begin to understand perhaps some of the rationale for hosting a meeting like that on an app like Signal. There's a Federal Records Act of 1950, which the judge was ruling on, which means that records from important conversations, especially at that level in the United States, have to be kept for a certain number of years. And that's why you can have a Freedom of Information Act, you can have classified or declassify certain information. Now, a not-for-profit, using that Federal Records Act of 1950, approached the courts to ask that Signal, which automatically, according to the settings, just like you have on WhatsApp, you know how you can put your settings to disappearing messages, that it mustn't disappear, because what they see is the Trump administration trying to bypass that law by using Signal as a platform, so that after a certain period, all records of that meeting is totally gone. So the judge's rule, even though Trump doesn't align, is in good fashion. And let's see how he would rule, in the next coming days.
Okay, the major issues with regard to MTG, the Republican, congresswoman from the 14th Congressional District of Georgia, is about the harassment of journalists, the occupational hazard that journalists face. Political figures seem to think that they know it all. And what we're seeing also is, the assault on journalism. Now, she knows that she's a journalist, but she thinks, she's a politician, so she's more important. It must also be noted that she's a far-right person, and also one of these MAGA loyalists. And she will do anything to protect, Trump, even if he borders on racism or harassment. The second thing is that the journalist, if you look at the conduct, the journalist was very calm. She was cool, collected, professional whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene was acting on the fringes of lunacy, in my own estimation, in our reaction. And I think in that regard, we commend Kerner, the reporter from, Sky News, for keeping a cool. And it's a standard that should probably be recommended for journalists who find themselves in this kind of situation with political figures. Now, after that altercation, and also attack on the UK, saying migrants are raping your women. We don't care about your country or your reporting. Go and worry about your country where migrants are raping women, and you can't even keep your borders. She did not answer the question. An American journalist now intervened and said, I'm American.
Yes.
And I would like to ask the question. Say, I don't want to answer our question.
I want you to answer her
the
question
journalist,
instead.
the American journalist, found a way of restructuring the question about the operations of American security under different administrations. She used that as an opportunity to attack the Biden administration. Nobody was discussing Biden. And then she ended by praising Trump. So this is what you see with the kind of, fanaticism of Trumpism, the hypocrisy of the officials, who are on the side of Trump. That's one. Now you go straight to the signal thing. Look, the issue is about national security. Now, American oversight, current executive director is even a Nigerian American, Chioma Chukwu. They went to court, and the federal judge, Boasberg, said, look, there should be restriction, a temporary suspension on the deletion of this reportage in public interest. The American public has the right to know. However, Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, had even already published, the entire script. Since Trump said it's not a risk, it's nothing serious. Since Caroline Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, came forward and said, these are not war plans, these are attack plans. Even Peter Hegseth himself, dismissed it. Look, the big issue here is not even just about national security, but about the fact that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with very incompetent people. He has prioritized loyalty above competence. Peter Hegseth was an anchor on Fox News. He was the one who was said to have mistakenly leaked, and Mike Walsh, added Goldberg, of The Atlantic to it. If you have incompetent people around you, then you are likely to have these kind of security breaches. They were giving out war plans, details, and what is the difference between attack plans and war plans. So these are the issues in this particular regard. And then again, America, said to be the land of free speech, all of a sudden under Trump, is no longer the land of free speech. That's why you have that 30-year doctoral student at Tufts who just contributed to an article in the university magazine saying the university should cut ties with Israel. Right. Now she's in detention. And she's not the only one. Over 300 persons are in detention. Just for ideological reasons, in the same country that they say is the land of free speech. Trump is just turning everything upside down.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for your great submissions. Let's move on to the newspaper headlines. And we will start with This Day. This Day does lead this morning with news of the Senate proposing same-day elections in order to cut costs and to cut voter apathy. Now, the House has rescinded its decision to strip vice presidents, governors and their deputies of immunity. It's also reversed its decision to abolish the death penalty, in addition to passing a bill for the creation of an additional local government area in Imo State. In addition to that, just at the top of the page, we can see that the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has appointed Tony Elumelu to its Advisory Council on Entrepreneurship and Growth. Huge congratulations to him. Let's move on to the Daily Sun this morning. And it also leads with the prospect of the Senate essentially okaying same-day elections. I do think it has been met with a lot of warmth, that idea. The New Telegraph this morning has also picked up on the happenings in the Senate as it rejects a motion to rename the Independent National Electoral Commission headquarters after the former chairman of the defunct NEC, late Professor Humphrey Nwosu. Now, Nwosu oversaw the June 12th elections in 1993, and that was obviously truncated by former military President General Ibrahim Babangida. And on the topic of age, actually, both The Guardian and The Punch reports that the People's Democratic Party, the coalition of the United Political Parties, and the Social Democratic Party have all condemned the House of Representatives' move to impose age limits for the offices of the president and the governor in Nigeria. Those are your papers from within Nigeria. Again, a very heavy look to the lawmakers and all of these decisions that they've been tabling in plenary this week. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
All right, so very quickly, let me take this age one because I stopped there during the news analysis as a result of lack of time. So the coalition of parties have said that Nigeria's main governance challenges lie in corruption, incompetence, and a lack of patriotism rather than age. So what they are called, what the Honourable Ike Ugochinyere proposed to the to the House yesterday was that there should be an age limit set at 60 years old for those who are vying for elective position, especially to presidency, presidential elective election, and governorship. Currently, according to the Constitution, there's no age limit, there's no age barrier. But I tend to agree and see the point of the opposition parties. Yes, we've often talked about how sometimes you don't have people who are capable, in terms of even age-wise to be there. We have other countries where we have seen a younger approach to governance. However, our main challenge is not age. And that's why I'm hoping that there'll be more robust conversation. Number one, let's deal with transparency in whether or not candidates are fit and healthy to take on the job. If you're taking on a job in the private sector, one of the things you do is a health check. It should be part of the requirement, and it must be made public so that Nigerians know that we're not just putting a leader there whom we're going to be funding their health bills, and that they have the mental and physical capacity to be in this role, which is very tasking. Beyond that as well, I mean, like you said, it's the strengthening of the process of election. If not, you can reduce the age limit, you can, conduct elections in one day, but we'll still have this flawed system if we don't deal with the fundamentals.
Okay, well, on that question, on age limit, let me quickly comment on it. There is age limit in the Nigerian Constitution. Now, but, we then had what was called the Not Too Young to Run bill, which became an act signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, what that act did, which was a major development in the development of the electoral system in Nigeria, is to say, look, the age limit for presidency, I think, can be reduced from, 40 to 30? That if you are 30, you can be president. For Senate and House of Reps from 35 to 30, all the way down, up to House of Assembly and House of Representatives from 30 to 25 for House of Assembly and House of Representatives. And that was considered a major development. And the whole argument of the young people who fought for that Not Too Young to Run Act is simply that it's not about age. It's about maturity, in terms of intellect, not in terms of biological age. It's about competence. It's about merit. So what this proposed bill, trying to peg the presidency at the gerontocratic limit of 60, is a major setback. And to that extent, I do not support it. If you look at the Constitution, sections 106, 131, 177, section 65, that's what the young people who pushed that bill sought the amendment of in the 1999 Constitution. Now, very quickly and briefly, is the other issue, what was that now? The argument that, I think it was in the House of Reps, we have dealt with elections should take place in one day. We have dealt with age limit. We have dealt with death penalty. Yes. We have dealt with Idiato local government. Yes. There is one other thing that they came up with that I forget at this moment, so I will leave it. Our
producer will be very happy that you thought it. Thank you all. I know that we've run out of time, but thank you for your time.